Lingqi, also known as death by 1,000 cuts, was a form of execution used in China from around the 10th century until 1905. It was reserved for the most serious crimes like treason or murder. The condemned person was tied to a wooden frame in a public place. The executioner then used a knife to slowly cut pieces of flesh from the body over a long period. The process was methodical and painful. However, victims were often given opium to ease the pain and sometimes died early in the process. The execution was a public event, serving as a warning to others. Lingqi was officially banned in 1905. In ancient Greece, around the 6th century BC, a cruel execution device called the brazen bull was invented by Perilos of Athens. The brazen bull was a big metal statue shaped like a bull. It had a door where a person could be locked inside. Then, a fire was started under the bull. The metal got very hot, and the person inside was slowly cooked alive. The bull was made so that when the person screamed, the sound came out like a bull's roar. Smoke came out of the bull's nose, making it look like a real animal. This terrible punishment was used to scare people and punish serious crimes like betrayal. Some stories say that the man who made the bull was tricked and put inside it himself. In the Middle Ages, people accused of witchcraft, heresy, or other serious crimes were often sentenced to death by burning at the stake. The condemned person was tied to a wooden pole called a stake, and a pile of wood was stacked around them. When the fire was lit, the flames slowly began to burn their skin. The pain was unbearable and grew worse with every passing moment. The flames would lick away at the flesh, causing severe burns. But the suffering was not only from the outside. As the fire burned, the person would inhale thick, choking smoke. This smoke burned their lungs and throat from within, making it almost impossible to breathe. The execution was often held in public, with crowds watching in fear or fascination. It was meant to serve as a warning to others about the consequences of crimes against the church or state. In ancient South Asia, one of the most terrifying methods of execution was death by elephant. This punishment was both a public spectacle and a form of justice. The condemned person was brought before a trained elephant, often in front of a large crowd. These elephants were specially trained to carry out executions slowly and deliberately. The execution began by the elephant stepping on the person's limbs, one by one. First, the arms and legs were crushed, causing intense pain but not immediate death. Then, the elephant would press down on the victim's back. Finally, the elephant would crush the person's head, ending their suffering. This slow and painful process could last for a long time, making it a cruel form of punishment. Scaphism was an ancient Persian method of execution. The person was trapped between two wooden boats, with their head, hands, and feet sticking out. This made it hard for them to move or escape. The victim was then force-fed a mixture of milk and honey. This caused severe diarrhea and made the person very weak. Honey was also spread all over their exposed skin. Because of the honey, many insects like flies, ants, and other bugs were attracted to the person. The insects started biting and eating the flesh. The victim was left outside, often in the sun or near water, where the insects could keep attacking. The person suffered for many days as the insects bit, stung, and caused infections. The sickness from the forced feeding and the wounds from the insect bites made the victim very weak. Over time, the person would die from pain, infection, and exhaustion. Scaphism was a slow and painful way to die. The breaking wheel was an old method of execution used in Europe long ago. The person sentenced to death was tied to a large wooden wheel. The criminal's arms and legs were spread out and fastened to the wheel's spokes. Then, the executioner used a heavy iron bar or hammer to break the person's bones. The blows were aimed at the arms, legs, and sometimes the ribs. The goal was to shatter the bones without killing the person quickly. After breaking the bones, the wheel with the victim was often raised on a tall pole or placed in a public place. This was done so everyone could see the punishment and be warned not to commit crimes. Death from the breaking wheel was slow and painful.